I'm Tammy Kolda, an applied mathematician, and this is Unlocking LaTeX Graphics. On this YouTube channel, I'm giving a detailed how-to guide on using TIXI and PGFPLOTS. These videos are based on my book, Unlocking LaTeX Graphics, as well as some bonus materials. Today, I will demonstrate how to make bar plots using PGFPLOTS. I'll describe the basic setup as well as some useful keys to make the plots look nice. I'll explain how to use symbolic axes, since this is a topic that frequently occurs in bar plot data. I'll show how to make the bar plots horizontal, referred to as xbar, as opposed to vertical, referred to as ybar. We'll do multibar plots and stackbar plots, and I'll also give some tips on styling your plots. This is one of a series of videos on TIXI and PGFPLOTS. Please check out the other videos if you want to learn more. I have here a starting point for us that has the document preamble. We're using the package PGFPLOTS, of course. The parse, skip, and full page package are just to make things look nice. The hyperref package is so that I can link the author name back to the YouTube channel. I'm calling PGFPLOTS set twice here. The first grouping is my recommended settings from my Getting Started with PGFPLOTS video. I'll refer you to that video for details of why these settings are important. The second set specifies the default size of 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters and sets the legend position to the outer northeast. Let's start with a very basic plot from the data file rainfall.txt. By default, it's a line plot. We'll change this to a bar plot by adding ybar to the axis options here. The y means that the bars are in the y direction, so they're vertical. We'll look at an example later with the bars in the x direction. We'll clean up a few things to make this bar plot look nice. First, it looks like month 3 has double the rainfall of month 1 because the y values start around 1.85. So let's change the minimum to be 0 and see how that looks. That looks a lot better. Next, the bars are too spread out because the x-axis limits are not large enough, at least to my taste. There's a key called enlarge x limits, which is 3 words, that defaults to 0.1, and that means that the axes should be enlarged by 10%. We're going to enlarge these axes to 0.5, which means the axes should be enlarged by 50%. Compiling that, it looks much nicer. This has introduced the problem of unwanted tick marks at 0 and 4. I could fix this by specifying x tick equals 1, 2, 3, but it's even easier if I just do x tick equals data. Now we only have the x ticks 1, 2, 3. Now suppose I want these to be month names rather than numbers. I can specify the x tick labels. Remember that this is plural even though the x tick is singular. Since this is a comma-separated list, I have to put it inside curly braces. So now the x tick labels are January, February, and March. Finally, I can fill in the bars by specifying fill in the add plot options along with the color. I'll talk about more advanced options for styling the bars at the end of the video. Let me show you a data file that's similar to what we had before. It has an extra city, Seattle, and I've also changed from numbering the months to using 3-letter abbreviations. So the question is, how could I plot the rainfall by month for Seattle? Let me see what I can do here. So I'll go ahead and paste an attempt at making this picture. It's basically the same as before, except that now I have an error. So I've used x equals data. I used everything the same here. What's going on? Well, the problem is I need to tell PGFPLOTS that the axis on the x direction is symbolic. And I also have to tell it the order of the entries on that axis using a key called symbolic x coordinates, which is 3 words, equal to a comma-separated list of the coordinates. So here I'm specifying symbolic x coordinates equals January, February, March. Since this list has commas in it, it has to be inside curly braces. When I make that change, then the problem is fixed. Using the same data file again, suppose we want to plot the bars vertically. The main change is going to be that we use x bar instead of y bar. So here I have y bar and here I have x bar. Everywhere else I've swapped x and y, including in the table. Now y is month rather than x, and x is Seattle rather than y. So when I compile this, we're going to see our horizontal bar chart. So that's called an x bar chart. The one thing that you may wish to change is that the order of the y-axis be reversed. Here it goes March, February, January. Maybe you want it January, February, March. So the way we do that is we add y-dir equals reverse. And then that will swap the order of those. I like this one a little bit better. Now suppose we want to have multiple bar plots like the rainfall for both Seattle and Austin. So let's start off with a picture similar to what we had above. We're just going to go ahead and plot the rainfall for the city of Austin. So here we have the rainfall January, February, March, doing basically the same thing we had before. One thing I've done differently is I added every axis plot /dot append style equals fill. We talked about this in a prior episode This way I don't have to say fill every time I add a plot, but the bar plots will automatically be filled. I only have to specify a color. Now let's add a second add plot to give the data for Seattle. I'll make that a different color, cyan. And when I compile that, I want you to observe that the bars appear side by side. We need to add a legend so that we can tell which is which. So let me go ahead and add that in here. So we'll say legend entries equals Austin and Seattle. And if you recall in the preamble, I already specified that the position of the legend should be outer northeast. And so now we can see the difference. And I like how PGFPLOTS make these cute little symbols for the bar plot. Finally, we might want to tweak the bar width somewhat. This is a matter of taste. The default is 10 point. Let's go ahead and change that to 8 points just to be doing something a little bit different. So that narrows those bar plots down a bit. Let's look at another data table, which is a transpose of what we had before, so that each row is a city and each column is a month. I'm going to put cities on the x-axis and then plot the rainfall. So here I'm adding 3 plots. First, I'm getting the data from the column January, then I'm getting the data from the column February, and then I'm getting the data from the column March. So these end up being side by side. What if I want them to be stacked? Well, changing ybar to just ybar stacked will make that change. Now it's a stacked graph, and so we can see the total rainfall for the 3-month period, as well as the rainfall in each month, thanks to the different colors. I can further refine this graphic by making the bars wider using that bar width option. So let's go ahead and make that 20 pt. So that just looks a bit nicer to me. Let's spend our last few moments talking about the styling of bar plots because of the way that they're rendered using the usual every axis plot, as I've already been doing, is somewhat inconsistent in how it works. Let me paste another example here. I have every axis plot should be thick. So when I render this graphic, we see that indeed the lines have come out thick. That works fine. Now, what if I add fill is 50% of the default color, and then we want to draw the outlines in black? What happens here? Well, it does do fill, but it doesn't make it 50% of the color. It's the full color, and it also doesn't draw in black. So how would I fix that? So to make this work, I had to use a special key, which is not every axis plot, it's every axis plot post. So just that extra space post makes all the difference. And so now it makes the colors to be 50% of the color that was specified, and it draws the outline in black. I hope you enjoyed today's video. You should now know how to create bar plots in PGFPLOTS. There's a link to the overleaf document we created today in the show notes. Please click like or subscribe if you want more videos like this. You can also buy my book, Unlocking LaTeX Graphics, at your favorite book retailer. Thanks for watching.